Welcome back to Policy and Rights here at Depictus Media Radio. I'm your host, Michael Clogs. Let's discuss Myanmar. We're going to have a recording from the Human Rights Council, part of the United Nations, as they discuss the humanitarian efforts and the humanitarian situation in Myanmar itself. Well, Myanmar is an ancient country. In some ways, during some of its colonial time, was also known as Burma. In Of course, right now it is known as Myanmar, and it has struggled politically. It has struggled economically, and it is, as far as the people themselves are concerned, it is struggling to support the needs that they want. Simply put, they want the same thing as all the rest of us want: freedom, the right to think what you want to think, and the right to choose what we want to choose. There are some interesting caveats to that, but we won't get into that right this very second. We do want to talk about Myanmar itself and the past few years that have led to what we see today, with the political unrest and unbalance that we actually see there today, that is leading the United Nations Human Rights Council to actually be taking a strong look at it and to actually have a special repertoire to come and discuss what is happening in Myanmar today. So let's go back to February 1 of 2021. The day Parliament was set to convene, Myanmar's military detained Suu Kyi and other members of the ruling party. The military handed power to the chief Min Aung Hlaing and declared a state of emergency for 1 year and began closing the borders, restricting travel and electronic communications nationwide. The military announced it would replace the existing election commission with a new one, and the military media outlet indicated new elections would be held in about 1 year. Through the military avoiding making any official commitment to that, the military expelled the NLD party members of the parliament from the capital. And by the 15th of March 2021, the military leadership continued to extend the martial law into more parts of Hagan, while security forces killed 38 people in a single day of violence. By the second day, thousands of protesters were marching in the streets, and the protests erupted nationwide, largely hailing commerce and transportation, despite the military's arrests and killings of protesters. The first few weeks of the coup found a growing public participation in including of the civil servants, teachers, students, workers, monks, and religious leaders, even normally disaffected ethnic minorities. The coup immediately was condemned by the United Nations. The U.S. threatened sanctions and military and its leaders, including a freeze of $1 billion in assets from the U.S., India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Russia, Vietnam, Thailand, the Philippines, China, retained criticizing the military coup. Let's put it this way: basically, the whole world was against this military coup that actually happened. The outsiders looking in. International development partners and non-government and government hinted the suspension of partnerships with Myanmar banks were closed, and social media communication platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, blah, blah, blah. The protesters appeared in Myanmar embassies in foreign countries. A national unity government then declared the formation of a armed wing by the 5th of May 2021, a date often cited to starting the full-scale civil war. And ever since then, Myanmar has been in some state of violence or civil war. So now we need to know what is happening with human rights and what other countries are actually doing to help the people themselves get back to normality, get back to what it is that they would prefer doing rather than protesting and having military violence running up and down their streets. And this is where we are today, and why we have a special repertoire from the United Nations speaking about what is happening in Myanmar. Okay, so along with we're going to flip this over to Canada now, and we have Mark Carney, Prime Minister of Canada, as he is speaking with Anina Anand in the background about what's happening with NATO, and of course, by 2035. Canada is now promising to reach the 5% threshold of GDP spending on national defense. Part of this is of this push to increase the NATO country stockpile is, of course, the ongoing threat from the Russian Federation, and of course trying to protect all of the Arctic countries that would be a threat if the Russian Federation were to attempt something. We already know that they've moved south, and they went after, of course, Ukraine, and they're saying that they're trying to free the Donbass region and they're trying to free Crimea. But is that really all that they're trying to do, especially with leadership under Vladimir Putin, who, for lack of words, is just trying to bolster what it is he thinks Russia should be allowed to have. Sanctions, of course, have been placed against them, where there's limited sale of resources from Russia back into Europe. The European Union is on board with that and working with NATO, of course, to limit some of those sales in order to starve Russia of money, so they have a harder time producing weapons and supplying their army. But still, conflict continues. But let's look at it at something else here, just for a couple seconds, and then we're going to push forward to hear what Mark Carney had to say at NATO, and then we'll hear from the United Nations Human Rights Council. We have two different sides here at this point. We have one where we're trying to stop war by supplying humanitarian efforts and in order to quell the people so that they stop fighting with each other and to end a civil war. We're trying to do this through diplomacy and peaceful means. The other end of it is we're going to build a stronger military to end a war or to prevent a war from happening. Would it not be easier, or wouldn't it not be a better path? Maybe not an easier path. Maybe the easier path is to actually stockpile the military. It's like I'm stronger than you are, so you better not attack me. Kind of mentality. But a better path might be to offer understanding and to unite all of the countries around the world in some sort of a peaceful resolution that would lower the borders so that people could pick and choose where they want to live, regardless of passports or anything like that. Just saying that there's got to be a better way of getting along in our world without having to flex muscle. To do it in a way that shows that, hey, we're open to settling our differences without throwing punches.